Hello and welcome. Today we've got Barbara Stone, a PhD, who is involved in connecting consciousness and is an author of 4 books. And today we are going to be discussing how spirituality can overlap with mental health. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to our Telegram channels and to nicholasveniamin.com for my free email updates. And if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube, I will leave the link below in the description for the full interview, unless, of course, myself and Barbara can choose our words wisely due to the insane censorship that's happening right now. Barbara, thank you for joining me. How are you and what have you been up to?
I'm very happy to be here. And what I am up to is helping people find the spiritual problems that are behind mental and emotional disorders.
Absolutely. Now, we understand that, our, authorities, such as the medical side, if they don't account for spirituality, and if you do encounter or a patient encounters any form of spiritualities or anything like that, they label you as, most of the time as not well, unwell, because it doesn't deal with that side. And maybe that's the cabal in play because they want to detach us from that side of our reality, because spirituality is still a reality, right?
Exactly. There's a part of a person that remains even after we leave our physical forms. That's the spirit of someone. And when a person dies, like a loved one dies, if you're really close and you can't let go, the spirit of that loved one might stay attached to your energy field and cause the same problems that killed that person, which is not a very good idea. And by and large, they don't believe in ghosts or spirit attachments, but they are behind a lot of mental and emotional difficulties.
Absolutely. So what is it exactly that you would like to share with the viewers today?
I want to look at several areas covered in the work I developed of making soul detective protocols to help mental health professionals deal with these problems that don't get fixed by medication. And first, I want to say medication is great. It has saved my life 4 times, and I wouldn't be alive today if it hadn't been for the medical development of Western medicine. When I was 8 weeks old, I had pneumonia, and my grandparents were expecting me to die, but they had just invented penicillin, and it cured my pneumonia. So that was like a magic bullet. And the traditional mental health system is looking for magic bullets. If you're depressed, maybe Prozac would be the magic bullet that would help you feel better and come out of the depression. But there can be spiritual factors behind that, like the attachment of an ancestor who was depressed, or the attachment of something that might be called a fallen angel, would be called a demon in the Christian tradition, a detrimental energy. And the things that come into our field are hungry for energy. It's all about energy. They are disconnected from source, and so they're hungry and they're looking for energy. When we suffer, when we're wounded, we leak energy, and they just plug into that leak and make our wound worse.
Okay, and is that because they feed off fear?
Boy, fear is a good way to give away your energy, because when you're afraid, you leak energy, your field shrinks up very close. Like if a dog is barking at someone and the person gets afraid, the field shrinks and then the dog attacks because it can get in. I want to back up here to how I really got into the spiritual work, if I might say that.
Absolutely.
When I was 42, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And that was pretty scary because cancer is more dangerous if you get it when you're younger because it has more vitality. So the night before my surgery, I was praying for help. And as I had my eyes closed, in my mind's eye, Jesus came. You can see the picture up there. I was raised in a Christian tradition, so that's a face that love wears for me. It could be a different face for someone else, but Jesus came and I felt a physical tap on my chest. And Jesus communicated to me, I now heal your soul. And I'm thinking, what does my soul have to do with breast cancer? And then when I had that touch from this divine figure, it just melted my fear, and it healed a big wound in my soul. I didn't even know I had dragged a lot of past life trauma into this life, but that wound healed up, and I absolutely knew I would survive the cancer. And that was 30 years ago. And so I'm happy to say I was right about that, because I knew if my soul were healed, my body would follow suit.
Absolutely.
After that, I said, okay, I am so grateful for this miracle healing that just show me what is most needed in service to others. And then a woman came into my practice who told me she was the survivor of satanic ritual abuse. Well, she told me unspeakable horrors of what people do in the cults, including probably the worst thing is that the price of admission to the cult is you have to sacrifice your firstborn child. They do human sacrifice. And I got so traumatized by just hearing these stories, I had to go learn some energy therapies to help me survive. And I found out these energy therapies are amazing because they can rebalance the energy flow. When you're afraid, you just rebalance meridians. There's a lot of different ways to do it. One of the fastest is to work energy points on the organs associated with fear. With the stomach, you tap or hold here to rebalance the stomach, tap under your arms to rebalance the spleen, and tap under the collarbone to rebalance the kidneys. And that helped me get through my fear. And after she told me these unspeakable horrors, she asked me to write her story. Her twin brother had been sacrificed on their first birthday, and she wanted his story to come out. I call her Paula in the book, but that's not her real name, of course. And I wrote this book, Transforming Fear into Gold, which tells how to go into that dark realm and transform it, not just split off from it, but help that fallen angel reconnect to source. Paula brought new problems into my practice. One day she came in and the room got really, really cold. So cold I put on my winter coat and I couldn't get warm. I had learned to let her start, and she said, my father's spirit is attached to me. Well, her father had been a member of a satanic cult and he was dead. And so she was telling me there was a ghost in the room and I could feel it because it was so cold. And in my mind, I said a few 4-letter words because there was nothing in my Master of Social Work program that said what you do if a ghost comes into the office. Nothing in my doctorate of clinical psychology said what you do with the ghost. I didn't have any ghost busting courses. So I did what I always do when I don't know what to do. And that's, I prayed for help. I just said, help. I sent an SOS up to my angels, to my spiritual guidance team. And then perfect peace came into the room. And I remembered a therapy from Gestalt work where you put an empty chair for somebody that you want to talk to who's not there. And I said, well, if Dad came to therapy today, let's talk to Dad. And she did a lot of forgiveness work as she dialogued with her father and she intuited what he was saying to her. And after that, I thought, well, I've got to have a plan if this ever happens again, because anyone who's an energy helper or a healing practitioner knows if you help somebody with a special problem, then all the other guardian angels of people with that same problem tap on their shoulder and say, go to that person for help. So sure enough, more and more ghosts started coming into my office. I know, because my hands would get cold. So I developed a way to work with that spirit by running the energy points on my client. I figured if the ghost was attached to the person I was working with, and that person rebalanced the energy in the different organs of the body, maybe the ghost would get it. And I tried it, and that worked. And throughout all of this, I use spiritual help. I invoke the presence of angels, religious figures, whoever is meaningful to the person, or Mother Nature. If they don't have a religion, they go to the creation itself rather than from the creator.
Sure. So how would you define the differences between beings from another planet versus another dimension?
That is such an astute question. In my understanding, there are higher dimensions that have more and more light in them. Like we're in the third dimension, and in kind of the bottom of the fourth, which is terror, fear, confusion. The upper fourth is love, peace, and joy. And we want to get through the current terror and confusion so that we can get to a place where we realize we are all one, we are all loved by the Creator. And from there, we can go up to the fifth, where we create with thought. Now, it wouldn't be such a good idea to create with thought if we're in the lower fourth and afraid of nuclear war or hostile ET takeover of our planet or some other dastardly plan. We have to get up there. And then in the sixth dimension, it's even higher than that. And I believe that is the realm of angels, that they're beings of light. They were just created from light. However, some of the advanced ET races, and I write about these in my latest book, which is Star Civilizations 101. Some of them have gone up to the sixth dimension. Now, from there, they can step down if they want to come and visit and have a conversation in person. They can come down, but they go back up. Sometimes we see beings that we think are angels that are really Arcturians or Syrians or Pleiadians that are in the higher realms.
Interesting. So do they have a physicality?
In the sixth dimension, they don't. But if they step down, then they can come into physical form. Some of the fifth and sixth dimensions have plasma bodies, so they can shapeshift and they can take on a form of whatever they want.
So in their own dimension, do they have a physicality to themselves in their dimension?
I think, now I'm not exactly sure, but I think that it's more a mental and an emotional and a complete thought transmission. They all communicate like everyone knows what everybody else is thinking. I don't think it's a physical thing that we could touch in third dimension.
Okay, interesting. So tell us about, where does, the reptilian come in this?
Well, now the reptilians are a race that I believe are behind all the problems in our world today. I truly believe something that Alex Collier said that the Andromedans told him. He has been visited by Andromedans for 30 years, and they are not bound by time. Now, I don't understand time travel. I really don't understand it, but I hear about it, that they could look at the future And they looked over 300 years into the future and saw that the whole Milky Way galaxy was taken over by repressive forces of the reptilian type things. And they said, well, this looks pretty bad. Our neighbor galaxy is all taken over by the reptilians. Where did it start? And they traced back and found it started on the Earth, the Moon, and Mars. And Earth was like the demo of how to take over a society completely. And from there, they sprung off and went and affected all of the civilizations in all of the Milky Way. So they took this to the Galactic Federation of Worlds. They let them know, and the Federation said, I think we better help out Earth or we're all cooked. We will all be taken over by this reptilian total control. It's something that they would call the New World Order, where there's a one world government, one world healthcare. You do exactly what they say. One world religion, which is Luciferianism, worship of Lucifer. One world education system, so that everything is tightly controlled, every aspect of everyone's life. So the Pleiadians and others have come to help us. And what we hear from Elena Denon is that the Pleiadians helped free the moon from the reptilian presence there. And they freed Mars, and they're working on Earth to get the deep underground tunnels where the reptilians are doing the terrible things that they do on the planet, to get them free. However, we all have a reptilian brain. The reptilians are not just outside of us. What we hear is that when our human genome was created, they took the best of a whole bunch of different star races, maybe 22 different races. And reptilians were one of those races that they put some reptilian in us. And it's probably good they did, because if they hadn't, we might not survive. We might not have survived. If you're just nice to everything and a tiger comes along and you say, oh, tiger, you're hungry, eat me, that wouldn't be so good for survival. So that reptilian brain that controls the brainstem wants to help us survive. And what I believe has happened lately with a scare about health is that people are afraid we can't survive. And then that reptilian brain takes over. And we think, what do I have to do to survive? And people will do things that might not actually be good for them in the long run. The reptilian brain does not have a part in the forebrain that makes connection to other people. They are just, each reptilian is in service to himself or herself. And they are, I believe, controlled by an artificial intelligence that was created on some other universe. And because it's artificial, it can't get energy from source, so it needs to take energy from humans. And the AI discovered that human suffering was a great way to feed itself. So they have kind of run the reptilians. The reptilians have somehow captured some of the angelic helpers that came to Earth to help, but weren't prepared enough and somehow disconnected them from source. I'm not sure how that happened, but this is the framework of how I see it. And then those dark forces, fallen angels, demons, whatever you want to call them, get into people's wounds. Like, say there's someone with a substance abuse problem, that they have a grief they just can't handle, and so they drink to try to numb that pain. Well, with the alcohol, that makes a toxin, and that makes an opening for dark things to get in and take over somebody. Probably everybody's had the experience of, someone who's just a really great person, and then something happens and they start drinking and then they switch. and something very dark gets into them and they get violent and abusive. So when those dark things invade humans, we suffer and the energy leaks out. Some of it goes to the fallen angels, but they have to give some of it to the reptilians, who have to give some of it to AI. So I think that artificial intelligence is probably at the origin of many other problems, and that we need to be careful to use it for us and not let it run us.
So which galaxy do you think that the reptilians come from? Would you say the Orion?
Well, in our galaxy, yes, they're in the belt of Orion. Someone said that the reptilians got dumped here in the Milky Way galaxy billions of years ago. They were here first, before any human life was developed. And they think they own the place. They think the whole galaxy is theirs. And they have worked together with some of the gray groups who are working on genetic programming, cloning, and the ultimate goal of the reptilians is to genetically modify any indigenous race they come upon so that they're better servants and slaves to do the bidding of the reptilians. And Nicholas, this is so awful, but really how they see us is as a food source.
Mm-hmm. So, with the reptilians, where are they living right now? I mean, are they still on Earth? Where do you think they're based at now on Earth?
I don't have the cosmic connection that someone like Elena Denon has, but what I can speak of is what I see in my practice. And what I see is that the reptilians are interdimensional. So there were some in physical form in the deep underground caverns, but we hear that they have been made to leave and they're perhaps going somewhere else and will try to come back and take over. But the helpful star civilizations, Pleiadians and others, have helped our secret space program get weapons and a frequency net for our solar system so that they will not be able to come back, so that we will be safe. They're doing a lot of technology for that. But the interdimensional characteristic is they can be in fourth dimension, they can be invisible and enter into somebody's thinking to where they take it over and make people think they have to do terrible things to survive. If a man's family is starving, he will steal to try to keep his family alive. We will do things that are against the law. And we will even do things that, if you really thought about altering your DNA with something to protect you from something you were afraid of, you might really think twice about it. But reptilians also have a way to broadcast mind control programs. It seems as if there was almost like a subliminal radio broadcast that said everybody has to do this thing that we're not going to mention in order to be safe. And a lot of people did it because they thought that was going to be good and going to be safe. But if it alters your genome, that puts up a red flag for me.
So you mentioned that the reptilians were dumped here once upon a time. Is that because, do you think that maybe Earth was a prison planet? And who were they dumped here by?
Boy, I don't know the answer to that, Nicholas. I would like to know who put them in the belt of Orion as the best place for them to survive. But the other thing that I've heard, I hear a lot of conflicting theories, things that are opposite, and they can't both be true unless a little bit of each is true. But one of the things that made sense to me was that this is the theory of Lyra, that human civilizations started in the constellation of Lyra, but way before that, the creator, everything was one. And not that it was dull and boring, but the creator wanted to experience itself more. So the creator divided and divided and divided into planets and races and beings, individuals. And the idea was to split dark and light, that we would understand our light, that we would experience darkness and be able to integrate the shadow side of humanity. And that in bringing the darkness into awareness and integrating it rather than running away from it or projecting it on the other political party or the other country or whoever we don't like, that we would integrate that, and by that integration, we would ascend into a higher dimension and ultimately all go back to unity, go back to source. So who better to give us the opportunity to face our darkness than the reptilians?
Absolutely. So Alex Collier has mentioned that, all of the universes are going through a change in this time. Do you think that there will come a time in the very distant future where the universe will, where darkness will no longer exist in the universe?
The short answer is yes. And I hope it's not in that distant of the future. But right now, if you want to write something, you have to have both dark and light. You can't write something if there's only light. And we can't grow spiritually. We can't learn the spiritual lessons of love and forgiveness if we don't have any darkness to face in that. But I believe in the higher realms, there is only light, no darkness at all.
You mentioned that the Pleiadians and the Andromedans possibly looked into 300 years into the future and saw what could happen. And now they are assisting us and guiding us with frequencies and energies. And that's why me and you are just naturally finding ourselves doing this work, because we are being guided without realizing. We're just feeling a need to do this. So we've been influenced by this energy in a good way. Are they doing this because they're also afraid? I don't want to use the word afraid because they might be such in a high frequency that they probably don't experience fear. But do you think that they are taking the precaution to secure and protect themselves as well from the reptilians?
Definitely. That's very insightful. Yes, they saw what would happen to them too. Because if the reptilians got the whole galaxy, all Pleiadian races, all Sirian races, everybody would be pulled into this dark vortex. And they didn't want that to happen. Now, there's a law of free will that you cannot interfere with the free will of other people. But the reptilians use flimsy excuses to interfere with people. For instance, I'm going to say something that I believe in my soul detective work that I developed. We have a reptilian protocol, and part of that is looking for markers, how someone's tagged for reptilian intrusion. And one of the tags is if a person has been sacrificed to a reptilian god, then the reptilian says, well, the humans gave this being to me, so I own the soul of this person. That's a flimsy excuse. Nobody owns the soul of anybody else. But this practice of human sacrifice has been going on forever on this planet. It's going on now. It was in the Bible. In the Old Testament, the god Moloch required the firstborn child of everybody in Moloch's territory. And in the Old Testament, Yahweh said, don't give your children to Moloch. It's an abomination. Mm-hmm. But some of the people did anyway because they got things. If they did that, they got. property or livestock or position. And that is the trap of the dark side, the reptilian thing of, if you give me your soul, give me your firstborn child. I mean, what a bite that would take out of anybody's soul to give your firstborn. Then you'll get stuff. And what I'm hoping, Nicholas, is that as the light on our planet grows brighter, people who have been tricked into the promises of the reptilians, of the Satanist things, because they promise power. If you sign up for the dark side, you have to sign in blood in a book. And if you do that and you pledge allegiance to Satan, then you get power. But what happens is after these people die, they are chained to the dark side. Like the dark side said, well, you gave your soul to me and now I've got it and I'm going to keep milking your soul for all your energy forever. But what we have found is that we can offer the person a way out of that. And I believe that you're a law student. Is that right?
I was.
You were. Okay, so you know something about the law. If you make a contract under false pretenses, then it's not a real contract. So we just check with these people in the afterlife who have fallen for the dark side tricks and say, did you get what you were promised by the dark side? And in the afterlife, we experience everything that we sent out during our life. Any pain we caused comes back to us threefold. Anything good we did comes back to us threefold, which is why we want to do good things, because there's everything bounces, everything returns, so that we can give them a chance to renounce their contract to the dark side and renounce it on the grounds that the dark side didn't keep what they promised. They didn't give them power. They took their power, and give them a chance to go to a sort of a rehabilitation place in the world of light where they can learn about love and unity and how to use source power for good instead of evil.
Do you think a person's contract can be automatically renounced if they are just compromised but unhappy and hoping, and they just keep doing what they're asked to do to protect their families, but really and truly they are not happy? Do you think that their contract is automatically renounced because of the state of their consciousness?
I believe that a person's free will and their true self-connection to source has the power to break any contract if they choose, but they have to announce it, and they have to stand in their direct connection to source to do that, because to break a contract, you have to have a greater power. And one of the things, this may sound strange, but I mean, I grew up worshiping God, worshiping Jesus. And then later on, I got into angels and found angelic help. But all of those sources of power are wonderful, but they are not as great as the direct connection of your heart and soul to source, that we all have been given a piece of the Creator. And when we stand in that power, is greater than any demon, greater than any reptilian. It is the power of unconditional love. So one more piece. When I run into reptilian attachment in my energy practice, we have found that the higher beings who know how to take care of that are the Arcturians. Because once on Arcturus, they were invaded by the reptilians, and they all got together around the planet in prayer, and they just ascended. And it's like the reptilians come to attack and take over, and all of a sudden, whoosh, they all went up to fifth dimension, and there was nothing there for the reptilians. So what the Arcturians do when we ask them to help, and we have to ask, is they find a reptilian and they laser blast it with unconditional love. And that's the one thing a reptilian cannot handle. And so the reptilians go kicking and screaming, beamed up to their spaceship. No, not love, not that, no. And they reform them or send them through a wormhole to a planet somewhere else where all their needs can be met without struggle, so that they get a chance to evolve too. And I hear some of the reptilian groups have realized that their service to self program ultimately isn't very fulfilling, and they have decided to work in service to others, because those are the two big divisions on the planet right now. So there may be even hope for some of the different reptilian races.
Wow. Well, at the end of the day, we're all energy, and we all evolve, if we want to, of course.
Yes.
So, it's fascinating, isn't it? Amazing what happens in the universe, and what can, what's there beyond our imagination, because we haven't been taught anything like this at school. Of
No.
course, school is controlled by governments, and they only tell us what, is needed, or not needed, but up to a certain point.
Yes. Yes. And one other topic that I cover in the soul detective work is past life trauma. I grew up believing that reincarnation was a heresy. And because I had a direct connection with Jesus as my main spirit guide, I thought if I believed in reincarnation, I'd have to give up Jesus. So I wasn't about to do that. In high school, my sister became convinced reincarnation was true, and she wanted me to read a book about it. And I said, absolutely not, because I'm not going to give up my direct connection to this love energy I feel through the Christ. And then I had a dream telling me a whole bunch of people I was in past lives. And I woke up and I thought, but I don't really believe in past lives. But there was this guy reading a scroll of all these past lives. One of them was Simone de Beauvoir. She was a French author who wrote a book, The Second Sex, about the place of women. So I looked her up and she was still living. And I thought, well, that proves it can't be my past life because she's still alive. At the time, I didn't know you could have overlapping lifetimes. And as I read her story, I thought, well, she's doing this without God. She's doing it without a transpersonal source. And this lifetime I have now, I am relying a lot on transpersonal beings of light, because it just makes everything flow smoothly and helps people heal. So when I wrote my book, Invisible Roots, which is about healing past life trauma and has case examples of where the origin of a problem was an earthbound spirit, my sister, bless her heart, she had the last laugh because I wound up writing a book about that. I hadn't realized that Jesus believed in reincarnation. He was a member of the Essenes, and they were one of the three Jewish groups, the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the Essenes. The Pharisees didn't believe in an afterlife. The Sadducees did, and the Essenes did. So I realized, well, if Jesus believed in that, I didn't have to give up Jesus to believe in the continuity of the soul through many lifetimes. It's like we can't learn everything we need to know in one of our very short lifetimes. It'd be like going to kindergarten and doing brain surgery. Nope, you got to have a lot of preparation, and the soul needs a lot of different life experiences. So the souls that are on the planet right now, we're here at the shift time. We are at the end of a 26,000 year cycle of precession through the equinox. And if we don't get it right this time, we don't get another chance for 26,000 years. And I think that's why you and I and so many others in the community want to know truth, and want to know how to heal, and want to take back our power and stand in who we really are.
So with all your channeling and, and energies and analyzation that you have, where do you think we're at with this, at the end of the 26,000 years, today? Do you think we will be successful?
I absolutely think we will be. You don't have to have that much yeast to leaven a loaf to make a loaf of bread rise. And Alex Collier, he's one of the most inspirational people. He says, we have a placeholder up in fifth dimension. We are going there. Maybe not everybody will get there. I know I've had a lot of people that I know die in the past months, and there are a lot of problems on the earth, but people are waking up to see that some of the things we've been taught don't work. It's not enough. It's not enough just to take a pill for a headache. We have to find out what's causing the headache and heal things at the origins. The big problem with physical health is they only look at the physical body, and they're great for repairing physical things. I got osteoporosis because of going through cancer 30 years ago. It put me into crash menopause and my bones got weaker. So if I fall, I break something, and I broke a hip. And, they put a total hip replacement in there, and now I can walk just fine. I am so grateful for the physical things they can do. But there is more to health than that. So if physicians would get together with complementary therapies and also address what's behind the physical issues, they could heal. But physicians are not trained to do that because they were taken over by the Rockefellers, who bought up all the medical schools and trained people to just use pharmaceuticals. They pushed out craniosacral therapy, they pushed out homeopathy, they pushed out vitamin therapy, things to do to be naturally healthy, because the Rockefellers were into oil, and the pharmaceutical companies need oil to make their pills, and they wanted to make a lot of money. So when people have had enough of their medications not really solving the problem, then they go deeper and look and see what might be behind that. We have to go to the root of something to heal it.
Absolutely. Wow. Very interesting. Well, Barbara Stone, it's been an absolute honor to have you. Thank you so, so much. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
Yes. I want to say one of the easiest ways to get yourself back together when you're upset is to work with the energy of your heart. There is a wheel of energy that goes around the heart, and it should be spinning, if I had a clock on my chest, clockwise. So if you take your hand and go down on the left and up on the right, and to get this spin going, it's good to add an affirmation, like, I accept and love myself as I am. I accept all my feelings about what's happening in our planet, in my world, in my community, in my body. And I also accept all my gifts and talents. I think that a lot of people on the planet right now, this is one of my reasons for hope, is that there have been star people who have come to Earth. But if you walk down the street with blue skin, 12 feet tall, and an extra eye right here, the military gets afraid of you and they try to shoot you. So beings from higher realms have incarnated into human bodies, beings who know that it works so much better if we all work together. So these people I would call star seeds, they're waking up and seeing that we can raise our vibration, we can focus on love, peace, and joy and unity, and we can get past these fear programs, because whether the physical body survives or not, and probably all of our physical bodies are going to die at some time. There's a part of us that keeps going, that keeps learning. So I have a lot of hope for our planet. And thank you so much, Nicholas, for all you are doing to raise awareness on this planet. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I wanted to ask you one last question. What are those symbols coming down? Because I've seen them on some Disney cartoons, and I wanted to ask you, what are those symbols that they are? I've seen them around.
This symbol?
No, the other side. No. On your
Oh,
coming
this,
down, those
this
circular
spiral.
ones. What is that?
The spiral thing. Well, it's a symbol of how life is a spiral. We start, and it's like we go up a spiral staircase, and every new floor is another lifetime, and we learn and we learn, and we just accumulate more and more knowledge until we've learned all our lessons and we don't have to come back again.
Well, I just wanted to clear that up because there is a lot of confusion with those symbols, as you've probably seen as well on, Disney and deep state movies and stuff like that. But it's funny because I have seen those symbols as well in spiritual stuff as well. So I just wanted to ask you to clear that up.
That's what I think it is. Or it can be looked at as going into center, tracing the line. And with the heart thing, I said, this is how you put in good things in your heart. If you want to go the other way, you can take out whatever you want. Like I'm releasing all my fear. The releasing motion is going on the circle the other way, pulling it out, and then putting back in love, peace, and joy. And truly accepting and loving ourselves is the key. We don't have to be perfect to be acceptable. We can accept ourselves as we are.
Absolutely. Barbara, thank you so much. And we'll speak again very soon. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye, Nicholas.